Hello, do-it-yourselfers. I'm Gary from Hydroponics in York Springs, Pennsylvania. Today I'm going to be building a 3-plant hydroponic system for a 2x4 grow tent. I've had a lot of people over the years have called and asked how many hydroponic plants you can get in a RDWC system inside of a 2x4 tent. My answer is always 2, because I like to have 2x2 for each of my plants. But I always tell people it can be done, so today I'm going to go ahead and build one and show you how I did it. I laid out the floor of our tent here on the table. When you go to measure your tent to lay stuff out, always measure inside the poles. Even though your tent may say 2x4, it's actually going to be smaller sometimes, so you want to take into account for that, because you don't want your buckets hitting poles or anything like that. These are a standard 5-gallon one that we're use for this system. This can be a variation of our Stirponic system. The Stirponic system that we build, if you haven't watched our other videos, uses a 75-gallon-per-hour pump to circulate the water and keep things stirred up. And it's going to have 1-inch tubing in between all the buckets down at the bottom here, and that's going to keep things stirred up. And this system here, we're going to have the reservoir outside of the tent. A lot of people have seen my Stirponics videos. That's where we use the big 3-inch white pipe, and there's like a hump piece that goes out the vent hole of the tent. This system here, it doesn't run the same, so you can't have your tubing going up and out the tent. So what we're going to do is end up elevating these up about 6 inches, which I'm going to show you that later, because that's probably a question on your mind right off the get-go. I'm just going to go ahead and build this thing. If you haven't watched our other videos with the Stirponics, we've gone very into detail on how to build them, especially our 4-plant one. The tent we're using is the AC Infinity 2x4 Grow Lab, which is a little bit smaller than 2x4. So I'm going to have the reservoir coming out this side of the tent, which is the right side, but when we go to mark these buckets where we're going to drill, they're going to be upside down, so I'm going to put the reservoir on this side. That way when I flip it over, it'll be right. I would love to have everything perfectly centered on this, but the bulkheads that we're going to use pretty much are going to be that close together. They're going to be touching each other in between the buckets, so you're going to have that space. You're not going to be able to bring the buckets in any closer to get them perfectly even in this tent. But that's going to be alright. This is going to be a jungle if you want to grow 3 plants in a 2x4. Guarantee it's going to be a jungle. The porthole of the tent I have marked on this table here. The AC Infinity tents are unique. Their portholes are really close to the ground. They're only 6.5 inches up off the ground. So that's where we're going to run our tubing out the side to our reservoir bucket. Gorilla tents, I think, are 9-inch. So those tents, you'd have to raise it up a little bit more to get them out the hole. Tools you're going to need for this is some tubing cutters, some heavy-duty scissors will work. Silver Sharpie marker. We got our measuring stick here. Deburr tool or a razor blade, something to clean up your holes when you drill them, because the little burrs on them from our drill bits can mess up the seal on these. Drill bits in general, you're going to need a 1 1/4 inch. That does these. The airline for this system is 1/4 inch airline, so 1/4 inch drill bit, and then this one here is just to notch out a cord port for our lid for the reservoir. Somewhere for the cord to run out, which I'll show you that when we get to it. The labels on these buckets that we use, these are leak-tight buckets. They're BPA free, they're good buckets. These are painted on, and I'm going to put them on the back side of here. Something you want to think about, because if you put them in the front, you're going to always be seeing the label. So they're going to go on the back side. I'm putting my handles out to the side here. That way I can actually pick the system up and move it around. And I don't want to put the labels here. Try to avoid drilling through labels if you can. The painted on ones actually seal up fine, so if you do have to drill through a label, it's not going to hurt anything. So our middle bucket's going to be in the middle, and that's that. Then these buckets are going to be as close as I can get them. And then the reservoir bucket, the portholes are here. So I might actually have that bucket sitting over this way, shifted up towards the front of the tent a little bit on the outside of the tent, just to get our tubing out the hole a little bit easier. So I'm going to go from center to center of the bucket and get my center row here marked where I'm going to have to drill. I have used black marker on these too, if you don't want to have to see the leftover silver on everything. Just have a very well lit room to do that. Alright. On this system, I'm going to run the return line from the end bucket back to the reservoir on the front of your tent. So when you go in the door, you'll be able to see that tube. Just in case you have any problems, you'll be able to get to it easier. So for that tube, it's going to kind of run along here and out the hole, the porthole of the tent. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball that up a little bit. Using flexible tubing, that's one of the advantages of it. Alright, so right now I'm kind of eyeing up where the porthole is going to be. And then your return line is going to be close to this one. You don't want to have these too close together because you want a little bit of plastic in between. So yeah, you're about 2 1/4 inches apart on those. And if you haven't watched our other videos, pretty much don't drill these too far close to the bottom. The bottom of the buckets kind of come down on a little curve, and if they're sitting crooked from the inside, it's going to break the seal and they're going to leak. So you can go as close as 1 1/2 inch up. I do 1 5/8 lately, just to be sure. This T-square, I marked 1 5/8 just because I do so many of these systems. It's just an easy tool to do. If you have a T-square at home, just mark it and you'll be able to get this done a lot quicker. Alright, got all them marked. Just want to throw this out there. I like to run all my tubing at the very bottom of the bucket because the bottom of the bucket is where a lot of your sediment from your nutrients will fall. So it's good to have that portion of your systems, no matter what you build, moving. You want water moving around there. It's going to help keep it stirred up. So pretty much that's your bullseyes. I'm going to go ahead and drill all these. We're going to fast forward through it. Got all this drilled, so now we're going to do the flip because where the bucket's now upright. The reservoir's over here. These are 3 plant sites. Alright, so labels are going in the back towards me. Alright, so that's how they're going to be set up. And then of course you got your net baskets are going to be in these 3. And then your reservoir's going to have a lid on it when we're done this. So next step is going to be deburr your holes. Different drill bits are different diameters, so I always like to just check one, see where we're at here. This one is good. So this drill bit This is not going to be one of the type brands out there. But sometimes you might have to deburr this extra to get them to go through. But even not deburred, they go in easy. So just take a little bit off to make it smooth. While we got the drilling going on here, I'm going to go ahead and do my air lines. I like to run the air lines on the back side of the system. I don't like drilling them right where the handle's at. In case you do pick them up, you don't want your handle to like totally hit an air line. It's going to hit it anyway, but at least have it all to the side. So this end bucket's going to kind of like go in on these two ends, and then kind of maybe in on these. It's not going to really matter. Just the very top rim, as high up as you can get it pretty much. Because in the beginning, when you first fill these, you're going to have the water really high. I usually don't put an air stone in the reservoir bucket, but we are on this one because air pumps generally don't come in 3 output. So they come in 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on. So I'll show you later on, but pretty much keep your air stone away from your reservoir, your circulation pump, so you don't get air bubbles in there. It's going to slow you down. Alright, I got everything cleaned up here. You want to make sure you get all the little plastic shards out of your buckets so they don't end up in your pump. I'm going to go ahead and screw these 1-inch bulkheads on. These are a Hydroflow brand. I have many different brands of these, and they all have their problems. This one, on the back lip of here, sometimes there's a little raised part. This one's actually pretty good. But you want to go and either just rub it off the fingernail or get a little knife or something and make sure it's nice and smooth there so that your rubber gaskets can seat nicely. Because that could potentially cause a leak. I went in and already did all these. So we're going to go ahead and screw them on the buckets, and then we'll get some measurements for our tubing and get that cut. Just hand tighten these, don't over tighten them. If you over tighten them, it pushes the rubber gasket out and then they could leak. So alright, so this is how it's going to be sitting inside your tent. This reservoir bucket can be out as far as you really want. These systems, I've had some people set this thing 10 feet away. It will not matter. Even with the small recirculation pump, it will not matter. Don't use a bigger pump than this either. We've tried that and the water levels are way off. Alright. Tape measure. Alright, so close as you can get them to get the piece of tubing cut, it's going to be about 2 3/4 inches. So you're going to need 2 pieces that wide. And while we're talking about it, you can make this thing 8 plants long if you wanted and space them out. We sell all different versions of Stirponics. So this is just the only 3-plant version we've ever done. When you get it, it'll come with 10 feet of tubing, so that gives you extra tubing to space this stuff out. There's one. There's your 2. Alright, so the reservoir bucket, we're going to have it out probably about there. Nine inches. Well, 9 inches on that one, not 7. why we include extra tubing. I know how y'all are. You'll be at home having a good time building this. So this front line is going to kind of ride along the front of the buckets here. Going to be eyeing this one up a little bit. You probably put the whole system together and just leave the long one off, and then once it's together, then you can go and get a good measurement on it. That one was 40 inches, so. So I'm going to go throw these in hot water and loosen them up. I like to put them in hot water, that way they expand a little bit, and then when they cool down, they shrink onto the fittings nicely. Helps them get on easier too. So when the tubing's cold, it's really hard to get on. We will be selling this on the website, the parts kit, do-it-yourself kit, and probably a drill version too for an additional fee. But hopefully this gives you a bunch of ideas, because you can use these ideas and do this with bins and do it with all different stuff. Alright, so I'm going to go put this in the tent now before we hook the rest of the tubing up. That way it's at its final destination. So I'm going to move this table out of the way, and then, yeah. Alright, in here we have to go up, so the tubing goes throughout these side portholes. It's going to go out this side. Like I said, this is about 6.5 inches off the ground. So you really need, the tubing on the buckets is about 1 inch up. So really about a 5-inch lift on this one. These are just little plant riders, but I had to improvise at the store because I don't have enough bricks sitting around. But I would use bricks or something. You can come up with something to get them off the ground. You are going to lose a little bit of plant height on this system, but this is one way to get 3 plants in here with the RDWC. So, convenient carrying handles here. Alright, so should be good. And then we have our outside reservoir here. See how far our tubing takes us on that. Alright. Then the long piece I have completely submerged in very hot water to make it flexible. Try to avoid having kinks in the tubing. Alright. What I'm probably going to do is just do once the tubing cools down, I'm probably going to just do a loose zip tie around here just to help keep it up. So I wouldn't want this sagging down too much. But yeah, that's hooked up. Alright, so the circulation portion of this is your 10 gallon per hour pump. This comes with 3 fittings in this bag, and you want the biggest fitting, which takes the 1/2-inch tubing. And then, if you haven't watched all our other videos, the back side of these bulkheads, the 3/4 inch fits in there nicely like that. So pretty much just going to rest on the wall. We have a piece of 1/2-inch tubing and then a 1/2 inch to 3/4 reducer fitting, and then that turns into 3/4 so that I can come out the bucket. I'm going over that 100 times in other videos on this Stirponics, so. pump kind of sets against the wall of the bucket and keeps it on there. So right now I have it going counterclockwise. After a week, you can go and switch the holes so it goes clockwise. That'll help keep your roots from going one way or the other. And this will keep it stirred up. That's why we call it Stirponics. And we're going to go drill a quick hole in the reservoir lid. Your plant site lids. Pretty much you want to notch out your lid just a little bit. I use this this is 1 3/16 inch hole saw here. But pretty much once the lid's on it, I'm only going to have a little tiny gap there. I was going to say, don't forget your sticker. Yeah, most of your air pumps that you have, each output's good for about 5 gallons. General rule. The big metal pumps, they can go do a good bit more air, but they are loud as heck and they put off some heat. So this is an Active Aqua brand, one of my favorites, made by Hydroponics. They're tough little pumps. They're a lot better than what you get at an aquarium store for the most part. This kit comes with 4 10-foot pieces. This is a Fluoroflex tubing, which is nice and flexible. I like it for air. We're using the medium round air stones, Active Aqua brand as well. These are 2 inch by 2 inch. These are nice stones. They're relatively inexpensive and they put out a lot of air, a lot of surface area on here. There's more surface area on here than when there's little round discs. So each plant will have one of these put in to the middle, right underneath the center of the plant. And I'm going to run all these air lines out the same hole that my tubes are going out to the reservoir. To get fancy with these too, I usually try to zip tie all these together and make it all nice. Once you get everything in here and the plants are in there, then you're gonna have a hard time doing anything. So it's just nice to get stuff set up really nice in the beginning before you get your plants in there. But for this video, it's gonna be a long video as it is. So, all right, for pump placement, it's nice to put your pump somewhere nice and cool. That way it's gonna suck in cool air. The floor is not where you want it, because simply because if your power goes out, I've seen it where the air lines will siphon back water through the pump and ruin the pump. I've had customers bring them back like that. It's very rare, but it has happened. So try to elevate your pump at least over the water level for your air. If you're a fan of our Stirponic systems, this is one of the 13-gallon buckets, by the way. And I did make it work where we can get 3 of these into a 2x4 tent for our Stirponic system. So make sure you subscribe and everything, because I'm going to do a video on how to build that. Which this one's going to be a jungle to begin with, but that's really going to be a jungle because those systems can really grow some big stuff. When you're running your air, always leave the air pump running 24 hours a day. Even when I'm cleaning out everything and sucking the water out, I leave the air pump running. That keeps stuff from sucking into the stones. My initial fill up of the water, I'll have the pump on, and that will as the water is filling up in it, it keeps the stones from getting clogged up as bad. But yeah, anyway, that's your air system. Try to get this if you got like an air conditioning vent or something that's blowing cold air, or by a cold window or something. This is a good place to put it. I'm gonna go get some water and we're gonna fill this thing up and see what happens. All right, getting the air pump going before we start putting the water in. That way everything's blowing out of the stones. I'm gonna take a little pause here. I want to check, make sure there's no obvious leaks going on here. Everything totally dry, so checking those fittings before you put them on is a very good idea. In all hydroponic systems, the water wants to be level all the time. So right now, this was way high, but it's leveling off. So all these buckets will be on the same level when it gets done circulating itself around. You want to have the water level able to touch your starter plant. So if you're using cuttings or a root ride cube or some kind of starting cube, in the beginning your water level is going to be way up here. You can't go any higher than the water level, the air line here, because then you can get a leak out of there. So there's where we're at right now. In the reservoir here, just try to get your bubbles away from your pump. So I'm going to kind of set the air stone over this way. My pump's back on this wall here, facing that way. That way it's not sucking in the bubbles. The last thing to address here would be this line. I want to fill this up without doing anything with the zip ties, just to see what's going to happen here. Got one little drip there. And looks like I stopped it just by giving it a little extra tug there. But yeah, let's fill it up. I'm gonna have to go a little bit higher on this, depending on what you're starting in. So, but as for this front line here, I wanted to see how much weight would be on here for the sag, because I think over time it'd be good to have it supported. You can probably just put a board underneath here, that'd be easy. I'm gonna try a couple of zip ties here. Or if you're gonna build your own platform for these, you can probably incorporate that into your platform. Oh yeah, that was simple. So I took a few zip ties and stuck them on there. Other than that, this system, you can make up to like the 8 plant system in a row. I've had people call in over the past couple of years doing all kinds of stuff. Just have to order like an extra 10 feet of this hose, which is on our website. And you could do a row, space them out farther. One thing you can do is change pump size. So if you're building like an 8 plant system like this in a row, you still are stuck with the 75 gallon per hour. And that's just simply the way the system runs. And the 1-inch tubing here only allows for so much circulation to happen. But right now everything's totally even. I've seen other systems that have like an overflow line up top, and those end up messing up. Because I've seen it where the first bucket will fill up with water and then flow back to the reservoir, and it just makes the circulation here, but then the rest of the buckets are cut off. So, but yeah, that is our Stirponic 3 plant in a row, stuck in the little 2x4 tent. And I hope you have fun building this yourself. I'm going to offer it as a do-it-yourself kit and as, of course, me drill it for you. So I'll leave that up to you. Other than that, please subscribe and stay tuned. We're going to do a bunch more videos. Have a good day. Peace.